My name is Ciaran Clancy. I'm based in Drumkeerin, County Leitrim. I'm involved in Leitrim Macra as well as our club, South Leitrim Macra. I'm the chairperson in Leitrim County. Was previously chairperson of the Young Farmers Development Group as well, and I was a national council rep for a few years as well. So I've been fairly heavily involved for the last few years in Macra and Feirme. Look, I suppose Macra has been doing fairly good work over the last few years. More than all the rest of the farm organisations, they need to do more. But I do like the way it's going in the last while with, there's been a good refocus on young farmers and getting access to finance and access to grants and stuff for young farmers, and it has, it's been fairly welcomed by the membership. I think, going forward, we need to encourage more young people to kind of join the organisation, whether they be farmers or from any sort of background, because it's a great way of getting out and meeting people, especially with COVID the last few years. The last 2 years have been rough on young people. I'm not too bad, I have the farming, but people who don't have that, and maybe don't have football or something like that, there isn't a whole pile for them, and Macra is there. I'm farming here in Drumkeerin in County Leitrim. We're suckler farmers, farming in around 20 cows there. Between myself, my father and my wife, we're farming in the region of about 180 acres, 90 of which would be mountain, and the other 90 be marginal land, which you'd see here. We rear most of our own heifers, 2 of our own limousine bred heifers here, and we buy in suck calves as well, whiteheads. We tend to just rear a few of them on just to keep the grass ticking over. We're selling our weanlings then as well in the winter, and we would tend not to keep too much cattle over the winter if we can. Everything would be LMX somewhere in the breeding. There'd be Shorthorn and Angus then in a lot of others. We would keep a fairly traditional cow, an easy enough fed cow that's weighing, maybe when she's dry, going to the mart in around the 600 kilos. We don't tend to keep anything heavier, we just can't. I would like to breed a little bit more power into the cattle, because we noticed in the last few years I was selling limousine calves off limousine type cows, and they were lightish calves, and you just weren't getting, for the same quality of animal, if you were going for a Shirley, you were getting €100 extra with them. So we went down the route and bought a Shirley bull, and we've kind of increased. We've kept the very best of all our heifers now, and we're hoping to see that might turn into something fairly decent. But we would keep store lambs sometimes, and maybe dry ewes or that, just to clean off the ground, but in general not too much of sheep. Again, it's something that I'm looking at going into once we get a bit more set up with infrastructure and housing and that. Currently I have a TAMS application in for a 3-bay double. It'll hold in the region of 35 to 40 cows, so that'll kind of give an idea of the kind of numbers we want to get to. It's going through the pre-approval stage now at the minute, and the intention was to have it up now this November gone by, but with the price of steel and the price of concrete and everything has gone dear, it just didn't work out that way. And I suppose the intention now is early in the summer to start building, and hopefully we'll have it up for next winter then. All our housing will be with a 3-bed dry bedded shed, and we've a couple of smaller buyers then as well. Everything is dry bedded, and then younger, lighter cattle, if they were hardy types like these ones, is kind of, they tend to be out wintered for as long as possible. So you're looking at one cut across the board. You're looking at trying to get one heavy cut. This is a silage field, and you can see it's full of rushes, but like, you could top this field 3 or 4 times a year and you'll still have as many rushes in it. I try and get cutting around the 10th of June or that. It was late the last 2 years, so the quality wasn't great, but for maybe about 10 years before that we were getting cut around the 10th of June, and we were getting a nice decent cut, and we would have a few bits of fairly decent meadows where we get a second cut. Our quality wouldn't be great. You're looking at a 65 DMD across the board, and dry matter percentage would be fairly high too, just because there's a lot of stalky grass, as well as you'd have rushes in through it as well. But yeah, we don't have hungry cattle, so it's not a problem that way, But you would need more. Like, you need to be able to take everything in your first cut. If you can't get enough in your first cut, you're at nothing. 2 cuts in places, but there'll be never a third cut of silage. Two cuts would be someone that have aftergrass where it'd be a real good year and they just didn't open it up. There'd be very few would actively go for a second cut like myself. I suppose I'm one of the youngest farmers in the area, or one of the youngest established farmers, you know, in my own right. And I suppose I would look at things slightly differently to my father and his generation, but most people wouldn't be actively looking for. But yet you only go 5 miles down the road and you're into a real good vein of land where everyone is, you know, is high production land and cutting 2 and 3 cuts of silage. So down into Manorhampton, you're going into Manorhampton, there's a great vein of ground there where it's all limestone ground. You're just in a sort of an area where we are now where the ground is just very heavy clay, a lot of dab, a lot of lying water. Even, you know, it's all hilly but it's still quite wet. Like, it's all near the plosh in there, but that's the kind of ground you're looking at. Any cows that calve early in the year, anything that's calving at the minute, a few cows calving at the minute, and the older, rougher types will go to the mountain for. It's mountain type land. It's not actually up in the mountain, but it will be classed as mountain land. And them older sort of cows that have seen a bit of time, they'll go down there and they'll winter there, or they'll spend the summer there. They get a good enough pick. There's about 90 acres in it, and there's some of it to be nice grass on it, but it's just good and dry. It's easy for them to rear a calf. You should keep an eye on them every couple of days, and they're grand. It's too open for the winter. It's just everything is kind of housed around the end of November. You know, if we can keep something out, we will, but we'll keep it out on our own home farm, or we'll keep it out here. This is a rented piece of ground, but we'll keep them here where they're close to the house. See, the mountain ground is maybe 20 miles away, so I would sooner see young cattle out wintered anyway, regardless of what sort of system I was in. If I had my choice and I had the land to support it, all our young cattle would be out all winter, because they come back in February and March absolutely blooming. Like these heifers and their comrades before them, everything was coming back out of this place absolutely shining. They get a bolus in September, they get a bolus in March, and the bolus in September will keep them going through the winter. They'll come out with lovely shiny hair, long hair on them, healthy, fit as fleas, no soreness, no lameness, you know, there's no muck all caught up on their tails and everything like that. So I think outwintering, if you can do it and you can outwinter a few, I think it's a great job. Suckler farmers is the bread and butter here, and we're probably in that region where the national average would be in that 10 to 12 cows, and that would be the average, because you'll have people with maybe up on 20 cows. I have neighbours here with 60 or 70, but there's other lads with 3, you know, and they'll keep a couple of cows and might keep a pony and maybe 5 ewes, and that's kind of it, you know. But it is sucklers for the main part. Your vast majority of lads here are just keeping enough to get their ANC payments. So the cows will be calving. There'll be a handful calved now, just a few that were bulled early, a couple of heifers, and then everything kind of calves in around Paddy's Day or that. And I shift all the weanlings then in November. End of November, beginning of December. If there's anything was born late or was a bit light, it's held over for the winter, and it's fed on and sold in around February or March time. Generally, for the last few years, all the heifers have been kept, but we have enough now, and we keep the best of them. Anything that is good shape and out of a milky dam. We actually cleared out a pile of cattle. We cleared out a lot of cows in the last while that were. We figured, well, there was age was against them, but also quality. They were throwing a calf every year, but they weren't just doing the business. And I used the star system for that. It was fairly on the ball. A lot of people were giving out, but it was on the ball. My highest rated cow is the best little cow about the place. She Angus cow, and she produces a great calf, 700 or 800 a year. She costs nothing to rear. A bucket reared her myself. And the worst cows that were showing up on the system were showing up as they were showing up as 1 and 2 stars, and they had no milk, and they were producing a middling calf, and not enough of them. So you've still got the issue that if land comes up, the farmer can't buy it. It tends to, you don't want to go and give mad money for land around here anyway, because it's not worth it. But the forestry is willing to come in and pay whatever you want. So you have to contend with the forestry when you're farming around here.